Let's paint Vase of Roses for Mother's Day. I'm taking a mop brush with light blue, bright blue, and white, and doing up and down strokes on an 11 by 14 canvas board. You can do whatever colors you want, but I'm just piecing these shades in until they blend into something like this. Perfect. And then take another mop brush and do back and forth strokes at the bottom of my canvas with some dark brown. This is going to be your table. I even add a little bit of highlight there. Make sure you dry it because we're going to do a vase now. Taking some white paint on a round brush, I'm going to make a dot on my table and two curved lines going down to that point. This is about a size 6 or a size 8 round brush. But you can use a thinner one if you want the vase to be a little bit less chunky. But this is going to be a thick glass vase, so I'm also going to do some expression strokes like this to make it look like the light is hitting it. There's also so many different kinds of vases, so make it your own, but I am going to give this vase a foot so it looks like it's standing on something, and add some expression strokes on that as well. There we go. That's a good home for our flowers. Now taking a detail brush with some dark green and light green, I'm going to make a couple stems starting up in that U shape and pulling them out towards that top point. Don't worry too much about that top center because we're going to cover that, but make sure you have a couple different stems and also notice how they're crossing over each other. One thing I see is people do them all perfectly lined up. How many times have you actually seen that happen when you put flowers in a vase? And then once they're dry, take your round brush again and add a couple more white expression strokes over top of that so it looks like they're inside the vase. Now taking an artist sponge with some dark and light green, I'm also going to bounce in a leafy texture. Let's give our flowers a good home. Cover that weird top edge of your vase and build it up, adding highlighting where needed and shading, alternating between dark and light. But don't make it too big because we're going to add a second kind of leaf with a fan brush. You may remember this from my bird's nest painting. I'm going to cover the side of it with dark and light green and just press down and pull up. Press down and pull up, just like a stamp. This gives you a different kind of leaf, you know, those little jaggy ones that poke out. I like to do some darker ones in there too. Some of them can be hanging off the edge like that. Perfect. And for some extra pop, take your artist sponge again with some white and you can add some baby's breath. Just pop in a little bit of white. Don't go too far, but just little tiny sections of it gives it a little something more interesting. Okay, so we're going to do something a little different today. Kids love doing this, but I think it's fun too. Very relaxing. I'm going to do a swirl technique today, taking dark red and just putting little dollops, then also light red over top of that, and also some white. Space them out so you have room to grow them, but I'm going to take the brush handle and swirl each of these dollops into a rose shape. You don't want it to be a perfect circle, so you can then elongate it and make kind of a wavy outside edge. But do this slowly to each one. It's important to note that the canvas has to be laying flat on the table for this so the paint doesn't run. And you also might want to use glossy paint. I'm using Apple Barrel Craft Paint for this one, and their bright red is actually glossy. Even though it says it isn't, I noticed it has. And glossy paint won't crack when it dries. So either do that or add a pouring medium of some kind so that your roses don't crack when they're dry. Once you're done doing this too, you can also add them wherever you need. I needed an extra one there, and you can fix up the edges however you like. There we go. Now, the only other thing I would do to this one is I think my vase needs a little bit of shading, so I took some dark brown and white and added a little bit of shading towards the bottom, cleaned it up a little bit. This is where you can add any fun details. And since this is such an abstract technique today, I thought it would be fun to add some splatter paint. So I'm going to take a flat brush now and put a little bit of watered down paint on it and smack it on another brush so that it forces the paint off and gives me a fun splatter texture. And here are the roses the next morning. You see how the glossy red sunk down into the roses? I'm really impressed that the paint didn't crack on this because I didn't add medium to the other colors, but super easy rose painting. I also filmed another rose technique, so if you want to see that one, I will link that video in the description as well. And let me know which one you see first. Happy painting, make it your own, and if you're a mother, happy Mother's Day.